Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel discussion. Before I bring in the panel, I take a minute or two to share the context. Purpose at the organization level refers to higher values and mission. Employees see purpose as a way to bring meaning to their work and understand the contributions they are making to the company and its impact on the society as well. Today, employees need to find meaning in their daily work in order to be fully engaged. For instance, if ETHR World's purpose is to be the first one to break news and trends in the community, as a writer or an employee, I can have a complete alignment with the organization's purpose. I too want to be the first one to break the news. That's how strong the purpose statement needs to be for every employee. In this session, dear viewers, the panelists will help us dissect the new definition of purpose and how people and technologies are reshaping purpose. Without much ado, I'd now like to get the speakers for an insightful panel discussion on purpose in the now of work, people, and technology. Do use the chat tab on your screen to share questions and comments for the panelists. Welcome to this panel discussion, Raj, Sujatha, and Priyanka. So nice to have all of you here. To begin with, I'd like an opening statement from all of you. Let's start with you, Sujatha. How the purpose in the now of work will focus on the facets of people and technology.
Thank you, Pooja. Great to be here and very pertinent topic to talk about today. The last couple of years, Pooja, have seen a huge shift in terms of how technology has entered and pretty much, in many cases taken over our lives. Also, just in terms of the teams that we manage, how we look at our organization, and the human aspect of working in a company, I think that has gone through a very dramatic shift as well. So in this context of the workplace, how people interact with it, the impact of technology on our day-to-day lives and so on, people today, including myself, are looking for much more than just the pay and the salary, maybe unlike in the past, from our workplace today. So we are looking to do multiple things. We are looking to leave our mark on the world through the companies we work for. We are definitely looking to have a much larger vision around social impact goals. We need to be able to believe in the vision of the organization and emotionally connect to it to be able to get motivated to work on a day-to-day basis. So I think just these shifts in terms of tech, the pandemic, and just the way the generations have evolved, right? I mean, today, for example, we have in many cases 4 generations working in a company at any point in time. So just the generational changes, I think, have really reshaped how we all look at purpose, how we define purpose for ourselves. So looking forward to talking about all of this a little more, through the next 40 minutes or so.
Thank you, Sujatha. Raj, your thoughts?
Thanks, Pooja. I'm glad to be a part of this forum. To share my views on this, I'd begin by saying that limits are fallacies. And today's purpose, same like objectives of the organization, is changing steeply because of the infusion of technology, globalization, and many such things, and changing the basic strategies of the organization because of the product innovations that is happening. The purpose is also evolving. And to make sure that there was a time when purpose was implicit, you understand that that's the purpose for which you should join an organization which is into the business of XYZ. And it is understood that if you join this organization, you'll build your career. Today, purpose has to be communicated. It has to be sold. It has to be shown as a part of your EVP. And you have to attract the best talent available in the market to make sure that you are an employer of choice and your purpose is not only explicitly available to people, they see people living it every day, and they feel if they join your organization, they would be a part of it, and they see themselves living and feeling that culture and purpose every day. So for me, I think purpose itself, the definition is not only changed, but the way we communicate it also has changed. So yes, I'm a strong believer of that.
Excellent point, Raj. And further in this discussion, we'll talk a lot more about communication, how it is important to communicate the purpose to the last one in the line. Priyanka, your thoughts?
Again, I think Raj and Sujatha covered it well. The way I would say is two things. Number one, I think reflecting in the last 2 years and how we see the world has evolved and so has human life, it's quite evident that the boundaries between work and life or personal life have almost blurred, right? So it's more or less intermingled, and there is no compartmentalization which helps people pivot from one part to the other part. And hence, a purpose that a work life has to deliver has to be all encompassing. And that's what organizations are investing a lot of efforts towards, that how do we create a narrative for our people or for our employees that fulfills most of the quadrants of where they want to spend a large part of their life into, right? How do we make it meaningful? The other thing I would say is the only reason why some of the organizations and people have not just survived but thrived through these times is because we chose to embrace a growth mindset at Ericsson, right? And when I say growth mindset, it's really about having an appetite of constant learning and choosing to look at every single situation as more of an opportunity versus a catastrophe, right? So even if it was a whole COVID situation, that was the whole mindset that we had. And the last thing I would say is the purpose also had one thing very clearly defined to us, that we have to equip our people not just to deal with a disruption with here and now approach, but drive that mindset change in a way that we become anti-fragile. And anti-fragility is one of the key thoughts that we have embraced that helps us, just grow much stronger and start to prepare ourselves to deal with all the unknowns. What's evident is that disruption with COVID was not just the only angle. The whole geopolitical, the entire economic disruption, technology disruption, all that has been happening back and forth nowadays where we are living, right? So anti-fragility is really about building resilience, empowering our people and investing in our people with empathy to be able to create this whole narrative that people are looking for on how jobs, organizations are helping them fulfill their purpose. And that's the journey we are on.
Thank you, Priyanka. So, one thing that the pandemic has taught us is that, there is a huge uncertainty that hovers around us all the time. So one thing workplaces and workforce needs to be prepared for is how to overcome these. And for that, resilience has really emerged as the biggest skill. And thanks for mentioning, anti-fragile also. Moving on, today's workplace is full of technology. Technology is in the driver's seat, and transformation is happening at every aspect. Every process is getting transformed. Every job is becoming a tech job today. So in this case, how leaders are humanizing the new reality for work, workplaces, and the workforce. Raj, your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. It's very, very important. So let me take a small little example of how do we humanize it. See, if I'm an applicant and I'm looking out for a job, I'd certainly look forward for somebody as an employer who would make those moments that matters for me in my life. Somebody should find me, somebody should hire me, induct me, develop me, support me, reward me. And most important, even if I decide to resign, offboard me with respect and remember me forever. So that is humanizing it. And if you can humanize the technology to create those moments that matters to me, and if it is a part of my HR strategy, I think I'm on the right path. So that's one way of looking at how do you humanize the workplace, because technology is so much infused in our processes today that we forget the me touch, which I talked about, whether it hire me, induct me, develop me, so on and so forth. So that's one aspect of looking at it. The second aspect of looking at it, that we talk a lot about DEI and ESG as a core pillars of HR strategy. But we forget that these two pillars, which is DI and ESG, ultimately boils down to a very, very important and pertinent concept that world started talking about is belongingness, which is much larger than that. Because belongingness happens when I feel that if I'm communicating about DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, and ESG, which is environment, safety, and governance, I'm actually living it. Yeah, the third point that I was trying to tell you is that in humanization of the workplaces, it's important that we talk beyond work. And I'll take a small little example. We create communities of people who are like. We learn beyond productivity. We rewrite work codes which suit, and I see myself as BU within the organization. And I'll explain what I'm saying. If I'm a tech organization and the latest buzzword is Web 3.0 that I want my people to learn at, now, if I'm providing them a learning platform, I also need to make sure that on the same learning platform, they also have courses where they can learn how to play a guitar, how to write a book, how to do things which are there in the engagement space also, not only in terms of productivity every time, not only in terms of getting money out of them. So it's very, very important to look at both the aspects at the same time. Most important, as the fourth point, I'd say, is that reward the right behavior and make sure those behaviors are then imbibed, and human behaviors are more promoted than the technology-based behavior. So that's very important for me, because behaviors which are rewarded then remain forever in the mind of people. And if I have to sum it all, I'd say that technology, infrastructure, and culture should be at the heart of the HR strategy, where you're humanizing all aspects of it and making sure that if there is any recognition that has happened, if there is any moment that matters to a staff, that is celebrated, that is shared, that is communicated, and by the end of it, you feel that it's not only technology which is running your workplaces, but it's also the human touch. It's also the belief of the senior leadership, which is making all the difference to your life and the purpose for which the organization stand for, and they should work with you.
Thank you, Raj. Those were absolutely valuable points. And, to that, I would like to add that there was a research done wherein when you ask individuals about their purpose, most of them related their purpose associated with their work life. A very few of them had personal purpose or purpose, for yourself other than your work. So when you talk about that, the leaders need to be cognizant of letting them pick up skills other than work skills, like learning guitar. I think it really helps to kind of, find purpose other than work, for other than work. Priyanka, your thoughts?
Thanks, Pooja. And again, to me, I think Raj kind of put it really well. And the way I see it is a couple of things. To me, when we talk about the reality of work today and the workplace, what's very evident is that no longer organizations can have a narrative which says one size fits all, right? That this is how we will engage with our employees, with our people. But it's extremely important to equip our leaders and to change the tone from the top, start and understand that we will need to have curated, individualized one-to-one conversations with our people. And the element of humanness and empathy will become the top of the charts on how employees engage and really feel motivated to be part of organizations. So to me, those curated, individualized, authentic conversations start to set the tone from the top and create that level of trust for an employee with the organization to believe that organizations will do everything possible to create a win-win for the employee and for what we need to achieve as our common purpose, vision, and values, right? And hybrid is not just something that we are starting to talk about, but it's something we are living in that reality today. And even as we talk as Ericsson, 75% of our employees today work from home, right? So hybrid is no longer something we're looking as a distant future. It's a reality we are living in now, and to a great extent. And the moment you talk about work and workplace is a place where you come to collaborate, to engage, to belong. I think some of the key messages we just spoke about. And every single employee in our own messaging to them is they're welcome to come to work and then design their own journeys of what they want to achieve, and they make their effort to come and be at the workplace. So to me, the whole pillars or the principles in which we will define this humanizing the new reality of work or workplace will be really about being able to offer the flexibility that we need to have as an offering to our people. And that flexibility, like I said, will be one-to-one, more individualized, depending on what the team needs are, but also what the individual needs are. We will continue to spend a lot of effort and conversations and investments on employee well-being. and do everything possible to ensure that that's not becoming something secondary. Employee well-being is at the core, and then we start defining everything around it. And third, like I said, we will continue to invest hugely on our leaders and make them future ready, make them effective in how to lead hybrid teams, virtual teams, and start to become coaches. So not just have here and now conversations with their team members, but also have futuristic conversations, which is more holistic, which brings, again, a sense of purpose and growth back to them. The last thing I would say is no longer are people feeling that the balance is an easily attainable goal. So we are encouraging our leaders to start to rethink balance. And again, the part of what you asked, Pooja, the humanizing effort is really about when we have these authentic conversations, we look at how balance will be ideally delivered to our employees, and hence encouraging employees to bring up their real needs into those conversations is important. And then we start thinking about how those flexible work guidelines will need to be toned in such a way that we start achieving those outcomes, in a way that we are becoming inclusive as a work environment. We are delivering people, what they want, at the same time prioritizing customer experiences with flexibility as well as positive work-life balance. So this is where we are when it comes to humanizing the reality of work and future of workplace.
I want to ask a follow-up question to you. Like you said, 25% of your employees at Ericsson are, they work in premises. So probably those 25% would have been worked in premises throughout the last 2 years, I'm assuming. So how do you bring a hybrid work culture for them? Because there are so many industries where workers have never worked remotely. So what does flexibility and hybridity mean for those kind of employees? And how do you include, when you talk about inclusiveness, how do you bring about that aspect for them?
Okay, good question, Pooja. Maybe it's good you brought it up, and sometimes you feel you are clear when you say what you want to say, but I guess I needed to qualify this further. So what I meant was today, more than 75% of our employees are working from home at any given point in time. Not that there's a fixed set of 25% working from office every given point in time. We're saying as a capacity, 25% of our workforce, wherever they are, choose to come to work. That's again an average number. Would go even much lower depending on the realities of the situation in the countries where we are, right? What we're also then saying is that employees are always given a very clear message that they're more than welcome to office, depending on, like I said, what's the work that they're wanting to achieve or accomplish when they're coming to the workplace. And so what we believe is our offices play an important role in building a strong culture, right? And a connection to the Ericsson community with hybrid ways of working. But when they come to work is a conversation they have with their managers. And again, like I said, we start to make it beyond just transactional, but more experiential. More, how do we create more belongingness, more inclusivity, more connected and engaged employees when they physically come to workplace? And that has been a lot of our thoughts in our cohorts when we're pivoting from 100% remote to a hybrid working today.
Thanks, Priyanka. Sujatha, I'd like to go to you and ask you, what is the roadmap to harnessing engagement and meaning to the workforce?
Yeah, I think we briefly spoke about it when we started off the discussion, right? I think this, what purpose means has very dramatically changed for everybody, right? Including, all of us on this discussion today. Especially over the last, a couple of years or more. So what that has meant is that, what engagement means has also changed, and therefore the strategy to, sort of build and sustain employee engagement across the hierarchy, there's been a lot of rethinking around this because meaning of work has changed for people, right? And it's very critical to have a clear roadmap to having engaged employees. I mean, we all in our respective organizations see the impact of attrition on a day-to-day basis, and just the immense effort in retaining our employees and also sort of hiring within the schedules and budgets that all of us have. So engagement is very, very fundamental to the success of an organization today, far more so today than it was probably in the last 3 to 5 years. So the way I think about it, Pooja, is that I look at the employee at the center of this strategy, right? And the way I would sort of look at designing this roadmap is threefold. What can managers do? And these are the direct managers, because we've all seen this and we've all, I'm sure, heard this, is that an employee joins an organization but quits because of his or her manager, right? So uh, coaching the manager to and equipping the manager with the right set of tools to continuously engage with their teams is fundamental. And this is not a one-time exercise. I strongly believe that this has to be a continuous skilling, upskilling, kind of approach to managers, especially the first-time managers in the organization, right? So how do you engage with employees in the context of a remote workforce, a hybrid workforce? Like I said, couple of key sort of features of the workplace today are that it's multi-generational, right? You've got Gen Z, you've got millennials, you've got a smaller number, but possibly some baby boomers. So how do you manage it across these generations is something that a direct manager needs help on. So that's one set of interventions that need to be part of your roadmap. The other sort of aspect of it is leadership, right? I mean, it's not just enough if engagement is owned by the reporting manager. The organization's leadership has to own it very deeply and fundamentally as well. And what that means is, there's a very different communication strategy that's required to be able to manage through all of these demographics, right, of employees today. And it's got to be tailored. I think I heard Priyanka say that, is that the messaging and the way you communicate, what you communicate, has to appeal to an individual employee. The days of this mass communication are long behind us, right? So how do you tailor it? How do you appeal to each and every employee in the organization is something that the leadership has to figure out and work on. And also just in terms of styles, be very, very approachable, be available, in some cases 24/7 to the entire organization, and not be traditional, I guess, in not the industry 2.0 way of leading. Leadership means something very, very different today. So that's how I see the role of the leadership in driving employee engagement. And the third and the last set of actions is around the larger organization itself. Now here it means having a well thought through policy for engagement, which includes how do you communicate, how do you engage with employees through your social media channels, what do you do on a day-to-day basis, how do you have clear career growth paths for employees, benefits, in terms of much more modern, innovative approaches to benefits, wellness programs, especially in the context of remote and hybrid workforces. So a whole bunch of, I would say, systemic initiatives and policies that have to also be put together to drive better engagement across the organization, right? So these are the three ways in which I look at defining a roadmap. And that's how we have done it in MeritTrack, which is the company that I manage today, and we are part of the larger Manipal group. So this is how we have thought about and defined our employee engagement strategy. And it's we're not perfect yet, but hopefully we are in the right direction.
Thank you, Sujatha. Those are really wonderful points that you mentioned, easy to adapt. I'm sure viewers will benefit from that. And, attrition is a real problem. Yesterday, I was in a roundtable conference with senior HR leaders at NCR. It was a physical conference. And many of them told me that the attrition they're seeing is in the range of 40 to 50%. So yes, so that's the reality today. I'm sure these points that you mentioned for harnessing engagement will be, is extremely doable and valuable. Raj, I'd like to bring you in now and ask you, the impetus to rebrand our work culture, strategies, and code of conduct is implicit. How are leaders decoding this equation to create a workplace of tomorrow?
I'm still in the frame of previous questions. So can I just add something to what Sujatha said? Because we are into the business. Yeah, because in Advantage Club, we are into the business of engagement. And we try to decipher what engagement means for employers, employees. See, engagement is a very broad term, right? And engagement, somebody believing in the purpose is engagement. When I'm joining a company, treating me well is an engagement. When I'm unwell, as Sujatha said, well-being, somebody treating me well is an engagement. My manager speaking to me correctly is an engagement. When I'm trying to fly abroad, somebody supporting me for that in terms of my mobility is engagement. When I'm stepping up into a new promotion, somebody helping me is an engagement. When I'm in need of a help, somebody coming that point of time is an engagement. So engagement is a very broad and wide term. You can solve it by putting solutions by structure and design in the offerings to the employees, to the staff, and then make sure that, as I was telling you a minute back, that every moment that matters to employee, if you can create a solution around it, a hand around it, when I have an issue, somebody to listen to it, when I'm celebrating, somebody coming and standing next to me and clapping about it, you create a holistic engagement framework. Gone are the days when engagement only had very cliche definition. As I said, if you're believing that limits are the future, it's a fallacy that you're living in. So you have to create engagement at every place, and every transaction staff look at it as rating you on a scale of 1 to 5. Whether I'm liking my employer, I'm disliking my employer. And you have to make sure that at every moment that matters, you have an offering for a staff at those moments which are defining your workplace and work code. So just thought I'll add to that. Now, coming back to your question on how important it is for us to rebrand and how the leaders are decoding the equation of creating a great workplace for tomorrow. It marries very well with our subject today, which is future forward. And that's also the theme of our entire session. So it's an important aspect. If you look back at us, that today there's a strategic investment which is happening in technology, which has not happened in early years. And we spoke about it. Pandemic has made it very evident. There is investment which is happening in infrastructure. We are calling people back at office. So we are preparing our offices much better than earlier and saying that, hey, we are doing engagement for you. And then people are doing every sort of thing to get them back at work. People development, fast forward, a lot of skills that people have acquired, which is beyond work in last 2-3 years. Well-being, disproportionate amount of money has been spent, strategies have been rewritten, products have been launched. DEI, with so many things happening around us, we know how diversity, equity, and inclusion has become an important part of our strategy. And we are creating a workplace for tomorrow, which is future ready. We make sure that those elements are imbibed. Most important, I'll again go back and say that we need to communicate this all. If you're creating a workplace for tomorrow, people need to know about it, that you exist, you do this, you believe in it. Those organizations which have their own brand ambassadors coming to social media, talking about it, living it every day, make more and larger difference in mind of people. And you also fight great resignation that we are all facing with. When we look at this particular aspect of future workplaces, or rewriting or decoding the equation workplace for tomorrow, the important aspect we need to keep in our mind is none shall be denied. Earlier, there were classifications of policies that we had written in the past about people at the bottom end of the pyramid and top end of the pyramid. Staff compares both and says that why they are getting this and I'm not getting this. So we need to go back and rewrite our policies and say none shall be denied. We treat everybody equal. And I'll take a very small little example, but very impactful. We need to rewrite the codes also, how we work at the workplaces. And one of the examples is HRIS. Most of us in our organization, to manage our workforce, we have human resources information system or management system. If you look back at most of the HRISs that have been developed, they are first looked at compliance as the factor in the mind, and then employee support system or ESS as a top of the layer sitting on the top of it. Yet we need to see a system wherein employee experience is being seen first, and then there is a compliance angle to it at the back end, which is created. So gone are the days wherein you look at compliance first and experience later. Now it is experience first and compliance later. An example of it I can give you that there are a lot of social media sites which have been extremely popular. But one of the reasons they still decided to go the meta route is because they are bringing experience first and other things later. So it's a wishful thinking, but I would like to certainly look at a future workplace where even if as an employee self-support system, if I have to go to a HRMS, it is a meta-based HRMS, if I can get. That'll be like, wow, I'll be working for a future-ready organization. So those are the kind of, I will say, effects or elements we need to create and rewrite and decode the situation of creating a workplace for tomorrow.
Interesting points, Raj. And I like to say that though most organizations have adopted HRMS and HRIS, but the question is, are those applications giving them a experience which they're used to through other mediums like a Netflix and Instagram? So the experience part that you spoke about is something that needs to be influxed in a more stronger way. Yes, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just saying there's a very small but a very important aspect in everybody's life, like you and me. We apply for leaves, am I right? That's a very common phenomena. That's one of an important step that we do. There is yet to an evolution of such HRMS that has to happen. The moment I apply for leave, I get 4 options obviously standing in front of me. I hope you're going for a recreational activity. Everything is well in your family. Do you need any support? And so on and so forth. So that means we are looking at experiences next, not looking at leave as a transaction and just dropping it there. If I'm applying for a leave, I would rather want my HRMS to come back and ask me, do you want me to book a doctor's consultation for you? Or if you're going for some other purpose or to work, put a DND, do not disturb, or out of office mail for you. While for all these, I need to do 10 steps and make sure before I'm going out from office, I'm closing all the doors. There's so much has to be done. Employee experience is completely ignored. And that is very important if we are writing a workplace and codes for the future of workplace.
Absolutely. All the speakers mentioned communication, and they've stressed upon the importance of communication. However, rarely it is seen that the top management guide team leaders to have conversations with their teams about why their work matters. Leaders prioritize other elements such as rewards, benefits, well-being, and learning to engage with employees over purpose as a means to amplify job satisfaction. As we approach the closing of this session, I'd like to ask all the panelists, the role of leadership is constantly evolving and becoming mature. How can leadership communication be strengthened? Priyanka?
All right, great. I think this is a very important question, and very important that organizations start to look at this in multiple lenses, Pooja. And the way I see it, to me, leaders, as organizations, we have to invest in our leaders. And they have to adopt, become resilient, and evolve with the changing times. Like I just said, anti-fragility is one of the concepts we've really been investing in, because we don't prepare leaders to deal with one single disruption. Disruption is the way we are living our lives today. And the more resilient we make our leaders, the better chances we have is to overcome any adversity, any disruption coming along the journey in organizations' evolution, right? And to me, once leaders equip themselves and evolve, then they will be able to inspire and motivate teams while dealing with ambiguity, while dealing with change, while dealing with the unknowns, right? So to me, if leaders cultivate this sense of transparency, provide a clear roadmap and directions to their teams, and build the trusting that we don't have all the answers, right? We're all in the same storm, just sitting in different boats. People will trust their leaders, and that's how leaders will develop real relationships, more authentic relationships, and they'll build a rapport where employees will be loyal towards whatever future holds. We will deal with it together. And that mindset is important to build with our employees. Unless leaders strike that equation, we will only play for the short term. If you see organizations succeeding in the long term, that will only happen when people have shared goals and they see a win-win between themselves and the organization, and leaders are driving that message forward. And I think coming back to the question you just said, in terms of how communication plays a very important role, to us, I think what has been very clear that a strong and successful leader is the one who's inclusive, empathetic, very empowering, and creates an environment of trust and openness, right? And how does that happen? In the words of Stephen Covey, the way he says it, when the trust account is high, then communication is easy, instant, and effective. And that's what is needed, because it's so easy to get lost in so much coming, in our ways in the hybrid world, that we have to really equip our leaders to be able to build that trust and communicate in easy as well as instant and effective manner with our people. And again, to me, the current context, with the future lenses, has to be both visionary and dynamic in order to succeed in this VUCA world that we have been living in. I think the whole volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity is no longer something that happens once in a while. It's what we live in our reality every single minute of our lives today, right? And leaders have to lead by example, by not just walking the talk, but talking the walk. Become vulnerable as leaders. Tell your people that we are not superstars. We are not superheroes. As leaders, we're also struggling in the current reality. And when you start to open up yourself, employees feel encouraged to talk about their journeys, their own needs, their limitations. And once that open communication happens and authentic conversations happen, we are in for a long haul. And that's a very proven methodology that we've adapted to at Ericsson. And again, to me, what's important is always remembering that leaders, like I said, are no superheroes. They need the oxygen mask first to be able to support people around them. So we invest in our leaders heavily to provide them the oxygen mask by enabling them to become effective coaches, to invest in them to lead effectively in a hybrid world, to coach them to become empathetic leaders, having curated authentic conversations. Once we equip them, that's when they feel comfortable in their skin. And again, it's an evolutionary journey, but they feel comfortable starting to test out all these ways in creating that camaraderie with their teams, building that cohesiveness and that collaboration amongst the team to overcome whatever future has to offer us, right? Whether it's positives or challenges, peaks or turfs, once we are in it together, no challenge is going to be big enough. We can circumvent anything. And I think, to me, that has been our learning, and that's the journey we are on.
Interesting, Priyanka. Sujatha, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just probably take a step back and then answer the specific question, Pooja. So I just want to call out the shifts in the workplace, right? All the different transitions we have seen over our careers, right? And I'm sure there's many more to come. It's an employee market today. It is no longer an employer market. We spoke about this whole sort of shift around how technology is in our lives every day, every minute, and so it is in the workplace. Structures have really flattened out. You don't have these, all these multiple levels, this very complex hierarchy. I mean, most organizations have very, very flat and therefore much more transparent work cultures today. And we spoke about purpose, that is the topic of the panel, and therefore the strength and the importance attached to the value system, right? So these are the shifts in the context of which leadership today has to lead, right? And what that means is multiple things, right? I mean, it means that a leader today, at a very basic level, has to be extremely comfortable with technology, very hands-on, very up to date on tools, whether you like it or not, be social media aware, at least if you're not on multiple platforms. So I think very fundamentally, a leader has to be that way, think that way, work that way to connect with, their teams, right? Because that's how the teams think. So that's a big sort of area that I see has changed and is a focus. Communication, I think we've spoken about enough, but communication no longer is about doing a town hall, and like I said, mass communication channels, right? How do you individualize and relate, from one employee to another. So what is the strategy around that is something that is a very, very critical part of what a leader is expected to, to do today. Importance of EQ, emotional quotient, has multiplied many fold today. You could possibly get away with, maybe in the past being a bad boss. Today, a single incident and there's a public court that will take you to task, right? So you've got to really up your game as far as your EQ is concerned, and continuously work on it, right? I think that is a very clear expectation. And what that of course means is that you have to encourage and believe in a very open culture, take feedback, give feedback, so all of that is what a leader is expected to do today, right? And the last thing I'll say is that um, almost, I mean, you have to, you've woken up in the middle of the night, you should be able to say what the values and the purpose of your company is. That's how strongly you have to be able to believe in it, right? And that then flows down, to the entire organization. So these are, just because of the way the workplace has evolved, leadership has also evolved, and what one expects from a successful leader today is very different from even just the recent past, right? So these are some thoughts I have on leadership, evolution of it, and the importance of communication.
Thank you, Sujatha. Raj, your thoughts?
I love the points that Sujatha just put across. One is the ability of leaders to communicate and be comfortable with the technology. Second is EQ. And also my fellow panelist, Priyanka spoke about the attributes of leaders, which are very important to showcase. I classify them because it's at AdvantageClub, we do it by design. These are the products that we sell it to the client. So what I look at it, that every audience fall into a persona. And every persona has to be influenced by the right set of leader in that particular world of persona. It's very important. And when you look at those leaders influencing these personas and these attributes, it's important to look at which is the audience and what kind of leader is talking to this audience. One, very important, because these are the people who are change champions within the organization and externally also looked upon as influencers, which is influencing this community. The second is the leader communicating the right message, the purpose for which you stand? And third is, are they creating the larger future-ready workforce? And they're believing in that. And they're creating a workplace of desire, not a workplace which is matching the benchmarks in the industry. You have to create, when these leaders, they talk, they have to create a workplace which is desired by others. So I can answer this question for almost a day, beginning morning to evening, where I think fellow panelists have covered it so beautifully well. And the only thing I'd like to say that we have to do it by design, and we have to do it with the right leader who influence the right persona at the right time. And that communication has to stay, whether it's on social media, you do an event and record the event, send the message in form of written text to the magazines, wherever you do, you communicate it by design, because communication is need to know. You just can't throw message up in the air and say that it's in for all. It has to reach to the relevant set of people. And there's enough and more technology around it in terms of search engine optimization and reaching it to the right people. So that's how I look at leadership and communication together in a future forward workplace.
That's a fabulous, close to the session. And I'd like to just say that when you're solving for future, let design thinking be at the core. I'm conscious of time, so it's time to close this session. Viewers, I hope you had a wonderful time in this session. You are walking away with great takeaways. Do not go, because stay tuned, because there are other exciting sessions coming your way. Thank you so much, Sujatha, Priyanka, and Raj, for joining us in day 2 of Future Forward Conference today.
Thank you.
Thank you.